we got started in business, and it might be of some interest to you. My grandfather, Abraham Schulder, started the business in 1903 on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And in those days, you kids may not realize, it was an entirely different world. There were no computers, there were no jet airplanes, no fax machines, everything was manual, done manually. In those days also, Jews could not get into businesses that you could get into today. There were no Jews allowed into the banking business, no Jews allowed in electrical manufacturing business. The only avenue open to them was the tailoring business. They brought these skills with them from Europe. And many of them went into the garment manufacturing business. With their tailoring skills, they started to make ladies' coats and ladies' dresses and things like that. That's why to this very day you have Jews that have been successful, and also they went into the department store business with their ability and their intelligence. Anyway, my grandfather started the sewing machine parts and supply business on the Lower East Side in 1903. And they sold bobbins and needles and other things that you needed in this type of business. They sold these to repairmen, to machinists who were going to the factories to repair machines for the garment manufacturers. As years went by, in 1920, right after World War II, the business had expanded, and my father also had a partner, his brother, Michael Schulder. So there were two sons, Abraham Schulder with his two sons, William and Michael. My father, I think, was a very astute man. He figured that in order to get the jump on the competition, he would have to get real quality parts. In those days, Germany was well known for its technical ability. They made wonderful machinery. Germans led the world in that. So he went over to Germany in 1920, and he hooked up with a parts manufacturer in Dresden, Germany. This was a well-known factory called the Schedler Manufacturing Company. They made the hooks and bobbin cases, precision parts, which were very difficult to be made, but they were able to make them exactly like the Singer Company made them. In those days, the Singer Company was the giant of the entire world. Whether you went to Hong Kong or you went to Lebanon, any part of the world, all they wanted was Singer sewing machines. So he had this Schedler Company starting to make the parts, and he was able to get the exclusive distributorship for the entire United States. Business started to thrive because the parts were made of very good quality. My father also had the foresight to arrange before the parts from Dresden would be shipped to the United States. He engaged a Jewish guy, an engineer, a mechanical engineer, to check the shipments before they left the factory in Germany, so that when the stuff came here, he would be certain that the parts were good, because if they were not good, they came here, they have to send them back, you have to get credits and allowances, and he was able to do that. So the business continued to thrive. But my father was not in very, very good health. He decided to take in two partners who were competitors. And they changed the name from A. Schulder & Sons to Consolidated Sewing Machine Company. Consolidated meaning he took in two partners. These three partners formed Consolidated Sewing Machine. These partners also brought with them knowledge of used industrial and house machines. So now the business consisted of parts and supplies, house machines, used house machines, and used sewing machines. We did not have any money in those days to start a factory to make brand new sewing machines, so we had to get used sewing machines. And the used sewing machines, the house machines, were shipped all over the world. We used to have people bringing in house machines from the Bronx and from Brooklyn and from Pennsylvania. We refurbished the machines, packed them, and shipped them all over the world. Hong Kong, Shanghai. We had an agent in Shanghai who gave us orders for thousands of these house machines. And, well, incidentally, I might tell you also, just to go back a little bit, that when my father started the business with these two other men, my father was a very religious man, Orthodox, and one of the stipulations was that the business had to be closed on Shabbos, Shabbat, and all Jewish holidays, the 2 days of Chag, where the Shavuos, Pesach, Circa, and we had some couple of black guys working in the packing department, and they knew better than anybody else in the whole place when the candle lighting was on Friday afternoon, because they knew they'd be able to go home early. We closed the place of business about 40 minutes before candle lighting. They come over, and Mr. Paul, when is candle lighting today? About 4:20? And they started washing up about 3:30 because they knew they were able to get off early. And anyway, we were shipping the machines all over the world, and doing a good business of parts. Then all of a sudden disaster struck. Hitler came into power in 1933, and my father said, I will not do 20 pennies worth of business with these people because of their anti-Semitism and the persecution of the Jews. I'd rather starve than give them any business. So he cut it off just like a knife, stopped doing business with the Shuttle Company in Dresden. Now where do we stand? Had no parts, so they had a struggle for a while, for a number of years, until he hooked up with a company in New Jersey that made precision machines, and with blueprints and a lot of hard work, and they lost thousands and thousands of dollars before they got started. They started to make the parts in New Jersey. These precision parts which had to be made with very, very close tolerance. And you know what a close tolerance is? Tolerance is that when you make a part, whether it's for a sewing machine or any piece of machinery, you give it a tolerance like plus or minus 1,000. It's not allowed to go 1,000 above or below a certain measurement. And these parts had to be made to very, very close tolerances. So after a number of years, we finally got the thing going. And then along came World War II. With the rationing, you kids don't know what that was, rationing. I happened to be in the service. I had to go into the service at that time, the Navy. And there was a tremendous demand for these parts because the government had to make uniforms and everything else for the sailors and the soldiers in the American Army, the American Navy, American Marines. And there was a tremendous demand for these parts. We stayed out of the black market. People would offer my father and his partners, listen, I'll give you a few $1,000s on the side, ship me the stuff first because I could use them. Absolutely no black market. Everybody is treated the same way, fairly and squarely. And I'm giving you everything sort of compressed. I'm not giving you a whole long history. After the war was over, we were doing quite well because we had these parts being manufactured in New Jersey, and we had a lot of used machines. But then the Japanese started to come in with their stuff. In fact, the first things that they made before radios and TVs were sewing machines. Sitting around the office one afternoon, we get a phone call from Tokyo, from the Brother Sewing Machine Company. Have you ever heard of Brother typewriters? Brother Type, before Brother went into the typewriter business, they were making sewing machines. And in those days, the Japanese had it was unjustified, but they had a reputation for making shoddy merchandise. And we said, to buy from the Japs, that would be crazy. We turned it down. And unfortunately, we turned it down because someone else got the Brother distributorship, and they made a fortune of money with the Brother sewing machines. In those days, incidentally, if you had to make an overseas phone call, you had to make an appointment with an overseas telephone operator. You just couldn't pick up a phone today and dial London or dial Hong Kong, or you had to call the operator a day before and tell them, I want to call Tokyo at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 8 o'clock in the morning, and then they come back and tell you, Mr. Schilder, your call is ready,